Today we're covering 5 tips on how to actually get better at jiu-jitsu. And no, I'm not going to tell you to just roll more. These will be practical tips that you can implement today and quite possibly see results today. So without further gun bumping, let's jump in. Number 1, find your style. Now this sounds like it could be difficult to do, but as you progress through the belt system, especially by the time you start nearing blue, and even as you begin to near purple, you will develop a style and that will become familiar to you. Now, what I think is important is to pay attention to the things that develop your style. The parts of the body that you like to attack. Do you like upper body attacks? Do you like leg attacks? Do you like pinning? Do you like passing? These are elements of your game that you should pay attention to because they're painting a picture that's telling you exactly what your style is. For me, I grew up as a wrestler, so as a white belt, I liked upper body attacks. I liked using strength a little bit more than I needed to, but it was all useful information that was painting the picture of my style. As I progressed through white belt and into blue belt and even parts of purple belt, I was able to utilize pinning more effectively, really sharpen my upper body attacks, using strength only when I needed to rather than flooring the gas pedal the entire time. Now you, on the other hand, could be something totally different, and that's a beautiful thing. I find that wrestlers, myself included, we all start off more brute-like. We rely on our strength and athleticism rather than focusing on technique and maybe even the finesse of jiu-jitsu, which we'll talk about later. If you find that you're completing techniques with more finesse than you are power, that's a great thing and something to focus on. I believe these clues are pointing you in a direction that you need to follow, so pay attention to them because you are developing your style. And once you know your style, it's a beautiful thing because you can easily build on top of that. Number 2, don't be afraid to learn the unknown. I know that a lot of guys will get to blue belt and even purple belt and maybe haven't started learning legs yet. For me, I started learning legs around late blue belt, and as I was entering purple belt, not being anywhere near where I thought I should be as a leg locker, that was hard. I essentially became a white belt at leg locks, and I needed to be okay with that. I needed to swallow my ego, swallow my pride, because that was getting in the way of my progress. Do not be afraid of the unknown. The beautiful thing about me being open to leg locks is it taught me finesse. It taught me how to beat bigger, stronger guys. And that finesse that I needed for leg locks transferred into other areas of my jiu-jitsu, which helped me become more well-rounded as a jiu-jitsu practitioner because I learned to be savvy, smooth, technical. I learned to be more effective with my movements and not trying to power through everything. Now, you guys know I love strength. This is, I think, the cherry on top when it comes to jiu-jitsu, but having strength with technique, that's a beautiful thing. And learning legs taught me so much of that. And I never would have gone down that road if I let my pride get in my way, if I let my ego get in the way. The replayability of jiu-jitsu is so high because, frankly, there are so many techniques to learn. And if you're afraid or too prideful to go down the unknown trail because you don't want to look stupid, you don't want to get tapped out in training by a lower belt, you're really doing yourself a disservice. So don't be afraid of the unknown. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Number 3, learn to string your attacks together and learn to create dilemmas. Now, this was something I didn't start to even dive into until the beginning of purple belt. And although that's fine, we're all on our own timeline. Looking back, if I could have just learned this a little bit sooner, it would have made a mountain of a difference. And to the white belts who are watching, this can potentially feel a bit intimidating and stressful, but this is something that you will develop in time. What I want you to do is pay attention for the opportunity to create dilemmas or scenarios where your opponent is stuck no matter which way he reacts. One example of this would be a bump sweep to a triangle. If you bump sweep your opponent and he doesn't respect the bump sweep, you sweep him. But if you bump sweep your opponent and he posts with that backhand, it creates an opportunity for a triangle. No matter what he does or how he reacts, assuming you do everything correctly, he's going to be stuck in a less advantageous situation, one more so than the other. The beautiful thing is, these dilemmas exist all over the place in jiu-jitsu. And to be honest, if I start growing bored with jiu-jitsu, I'll just do a little bit of research and learn more on other dilemmas I've never seen before, and that brings that love for rolling and sparring right back into play. And for those of you who are already doing this, I think you'll agree with me when I say there's something so exciting about creating these dilemmas and putting your opponent in such a bad place that he's done no matter what he does. So you guys who are a little bit more new at jiu-jitsu, start paying attention to this stuff, and you can even ask your instructors to show you a couple of these dilemmas that you can work on the side. Not only do I think that'll sharpen your game, but it'll open your perspective to what jiu-jitsu can be. I just want to take a quick second to give my sponsor, X Martial, a shout out. They're doing more for the community than any other brand out there. They're sponsoring over 300 athletes of all levels. They have given away over $10,000 in gear in 2023 alone, and that's just not any gear. That's the best that money can buy. If you haven't shopped X Martial yet, you're missing out. You're going to want to get over there. They're always running good deals on the best stuff. But that's enough gum bumping. Let's get back to the video. Tip number 4, fighting out of bad positions and even starting in bad positions. This is something that I see the higher end belts doing, the browns and the blacks. I've taken note of it and started doing it as a purple belt, but I honestly wish I would have started as a blue belt. Now, the reason I don't say I wish I would have started as a white belt, because I often just found myself in bad positions anyways as a white belt. So I don't want to layer too much on top of the white belts, because there's a lot of learning there in the white belt. But maybe even as early as late white belt, early blue belt, start training in bad positions, starting in bad positions. I once heard an instructor call this operating or working from the red. Now, obviously, the whole point is to avoid bad positions altogether. And if you are good at avoiding these bad positions, you're not going to get a lot of practice being stuck in them. And when that does happen, whether that's a local tournament or you're visiting another gym, you're basically screwed, right? So what you want to do is practice in these bad positions, whether that be positional sparring, or you're just literally starting your sparring match off in a bad position. By bad position, I mean guys on your back, maybe with the seatbelt or even a choke partially sunk in. Or you're starting the round maybe with your arm extended. The guy doesn't have the arm bar set up just yet, but your arm's extended and in danger. These are the kind of positions I want you to think about. Now, I started doing this and it has elevated my game so much. If I get caught in a bad position, now I'm not freaking out and feeling stressed out like I used to. I feel very comfortable in bad positions. Now, obviously, I've got a long way to go. This is something that I started doing in the beginning of my purple belt. I'm a 4-stripe purple belt now. So obviously, I'm not a master at this yet, but it has elevated my game, and I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed it. If you have a desire to get better, I highly recommend starting in bad positions. And tip number 5, never stop challenging yourself. Don't avoid tough rolls. You always want to seek out training partners that are going to push your limits and even break your limits. When you go to open mat and it's time to find that next partner, don't avoid the black belt or the brown belt or the purple belt. Go with those guys. As I've said in previous videos, rolling with upper belts will be the safest butt whooping you can get, but it's also going to be the most educational butt whooping you can get. You want to find partners that are going to make you try, and even more so than that, make you fight for your life. And then while you're focusing on those things, you should also have a wide enough variety of guys to roll with so that you're not stuck with the same 2 or 3, because that turns into a rehearsal. I learn what you do so much so, and you learn what I do so much so, that it almost turns into a dance, and we're not getting anything out of it at that point. This is one of the reasons why I like to visit other schools. I like to roll with guys who I don't have any idea what they're gonna do. And I'm relying on my ability to react. I'm relying on my own jiu-jitsu to get me through that match. That is where you learn. And on the flip side of that, if all you have is 2 or 3 guys to roll with, then fine, use what you have, but be creative. You know, start in the bad positions, round robin each other, shark tank each other, you know, do these things that are going to make training a little bit harder. And again, don't be afraid to visit other schools to get that variety. I think it's really easy to stay in our own little box of comfort, but there is so much value on stepping outside of that and seeing what else there is out there. Being someone who's done jiu-jitsu for 8 years now, these tips have helped me step up my game, and obviously I still have a long way to go, but that's the fun part of jiu-jitsu. Do you ever really get to the end? Only if you give up, right? Only if you give up. So keep training, keep going, keep learning, keep it fun, keep it difficult, and don't be afraid to try new training partners, because there's a lot of value there, guys. And for the rest of you guys who've been training for a while, if you have other tips, drop them in the comments below. You'd be surprised how many white belts come through these videos and can learn from that, right? I'm trying to build a community here, guys, where we all learn from each other, myself included. I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but I'll tell you what, some of you guys have dropped some comments just giving other people advice that blow my mind away, and I learned from that. So I appreciate you guys more than I know how to say. I hope you had a good holiday. Sometimes backwards, always forwards. I'll see you in the next one.